I'm not sure how you can honestly look at free agency period in 2022 and not at least take a cursory glance at Chandler Jones as an option for your team. When you look at the film from 2021, you really don't see a guy who looks much different from the player who was nearly Defensive Player of the Year twice. I think 2019, 19 sacks, 2017, 17 sacks. I may have those numbers backwards, but close to being Defensive Player of the Year twice. I think he had a 20 sack season one year as well. 2020, not much impact. I think he only played 7 games, maybe 9, somewhere around there. I know it's an odd number. And then this past year, 10.5 sacks for the Cardinals in kind of their second year in a resurgence under Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. Look, Chandler Jones, in my opinion, I'll get it up front. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I really do. If you look at the collection of plays that he's made, the impact he's had on the teams he's played for. He's a Super Bowl champion, a four-time Pro Bowler, excuse me, two-time I think All Pro. Just an amazing football player. Watching his film from 2021, and I'm only going to include like 8 or 9 plays, because at this point we're just talking about who the Ravens might look at, and if it's true that Tyus Bowser is going to be out for longer than I thought, even in a couple of videos I did last week, I didn't think he was going to be out that long, but it makes sense because it's an Achilles. Chandler Jones to me looks like an option for a 1 year deal or 2 years. I don't know, whatever you want to look at. I think he's 32 years old. Obviously, everyone knows his family background. Everyone in his family is a winner and accomplished great things. Chandler Jones, his brother was with the Ravens before, I think for the Super Bowl actually. Chandler Jones to me is a fantastic option. We're going to look at some run plays first and then some pass plays. And we will be remiss if we didn't talk about his five sack performance in week 1 against Taylor Lewan and the Tennessee Titans, who of course went on to have a great season. I would advocate for looking at Chandler Jones from a standpoint of value and return on investment because he does not need help to get sacks. He does not need scheme to get sacks. He can get them on his own, and hopefully I can show you that in this video. But he's not a one-dimensional player in any case. I think he's a guy who plays equally well against the run. I shouldn't say equally well, excuse me. He plays considerably well against the run, but unbelievably well against the pass. Against the pass, he reminds me of just a virtuoso musician who's seen it all, done it all, and this is just another performance for him. But let's look at 3 run plays against Seattle. Check out the extension, him keeping the eyes in the backfield. This is Alex Collins, by the way, I believe, who used to play for the Ravens, and he gets a TFL, on a where the running back had to bounce it because there was some B gap penetration. Chandler Jones got cool celebrations too. I think he would do great things in a Ravens uniform. This is something against the Titans that I've only really ever seen T.J. Watt do successfully and with this amount of force and explosiveness. It's going to be a run play to his side, to the weak side. So you can see there's the tackle here, which I believe is Lewan. And then there's no one outside of him. The Titans and a bunch of other teams love to run zone plays away from 1 or 2 tight ends tightly aligned, and then these guys' job is to try to scoop on the backside and create these kind of downhill cutback lanes for Henry. So one of the things that teams do, one of the things that really high level players do on the edge is they go ahead and slam the inside gap. So you can see there's a B gap defender here, a D tackle in the B gap. Back in week 1, I mean, Chandler Jones was really prepared for this because it's not like there was film of the Titans to this point in 2021 because it was week 1, like I said. This is something that only the elite guys can do and make this play against the best running back in the game. That's an amazing play. It looks simple, taking on Taylor Lewan, shocking him, jumping inside, unbelievable play. And this next one I think is even more unbelievable from the standpoint of what he does on a run play. Now, not every run play, but we'll give you the all 22. It's going to be a downhill run play by I think Ezekiel Elliott, tackle for loss, like a 1 or 2 yard gain, or 1 or 2 yard loss back in the backfield. But in any case, you can see from the all 22 how he's swimming past this tight end. But I want you to really see this from the end zone angle, and hopefully I can do a good job of explaining it. So he's lined up against a tight end because he's got a 3 technique inside of him. So if he had a 1 technique, then he would be in a 5. He'd be in the C gap. So I mean it's a tight 9, I should say. So anyway, The tight end's going to try to scoop inside, and Chandler Jones is going to swim on a run play, somewhat rare. But the part about this that's really impressive with the move, the hand placement, the fluidity of the hand movements is he's going to chop with his right arm as he's swimming with his left. And hopefully I can show you this a couple times. I should have slowed it down for you to see how elite that is, in my opinion. Another, maybe you have watched more film than I have, and maybe you um, can recall plays like this, seeing this, but against a run block, against what essentially is a base block in some ways, to swim with the inside move and then chop down with the outside arm while turning your body perpendicular to the line of scrimmage just seems like an elite physical play for a guy who apparently is 32 years old. So I'm using that to offer to you that athletically, technique-wise, he's still able to do all of the things that he was able to do during those seasons when he had 17 or 19 sacks. Or, I think he had a 20-sack season, but I could be wrong there. All right, so let's check out the pass rush moves. Against Seattle, about mid-season, really good in these situations where it doesn't look like he's going to win with the hands. There's some situations where it doesn't look like he's going to win, and it's almost like he's setting people up with I don't want to say lazy, but he's setting people up with a move that doesn't look real forceful so far. And then it's slick, it's underrated. He wins with the second move. Now, I'm not going to talk about who he's facing. These are NFL-level offensive tackles. Against Tennessee, he faced Taylor Lewan. When Taylor Lewan was, quote, hurt later on, he faced a different offensive tackle. Watch this move. He literally grabs Taylor Lewan with his right arm here, pulls him and catapults himself into the backfield with an inside dip. Now, it's not that other people don't do these moves. Chandler Jones has every single move. I feel like if you have a pass rush conversation with Chandler Jones, he's going to be able to. My guess is he's an extremely intelligent player just from watching what he does. I bet you he could probably recall the moves he's used on certain people. So something that is different for Chandler Jones than it is for other players, this is what he does on run away from him sometimes. Now, I don't know what the call is or why he does this or, when he would do the, quote, fundamental thing, which is, step down the line, stay square, play the back half of this run play, or once you see the quarterback has the ball, then redirect. Now, I have seen him do that, but I have also seen him do this, which basically takes this play out of your playbook as a coach, as an offensive coaching staff. It basically takes the play out of your playbook, and that's what you want if you're the Ravens in 2022, if you ask me. You want to minimize people's playbooks. You want to simplify their play calling. This is the other other left tackle that he faced in week 1 when Taylor Lewan was hurt for a couple of plays and then came back. I do not think that this first arm movement by him, reaching out, I do not think he's actually attempting to touch the offensive tackle. And other people do this. I think he's trying to draw the tackle's hands out, and then he forklifts him with the inside arm moving up. So this is not an outside rush, like speed rush. I call this a forklift. You may have different names for it. I think it's a beautiful move. I think it's impeccably timed as far as the hand movements and the hand placement up under the right armpit is what's interesting to me. Right there. Going to forklift him up. And that's a big man. Obviously, if he's an offensive tackle in the NFL, he decleats him and deposits him on the ground. Chandler Jones, to me, is a scary guy to have to face. 10.5 sacks this year. So, yeah, he only had 5.5 sacks after week 1. So, if you want to have some concerns there about, his overall performance, go right ahead. To me, he looks like a guy who can absolutely feast when he's rolling. Here is a switch, a tech stunt, whatever you want to call it. He was at the outside guy. He lined up, and then he intentionally engages the offensive guard so that the defensive tackle can loop around. Now, in this case, it doesn't work in terms of freeing up the defensive tackle because NFL teams seen this thousands of times. They practice it every day. But Chandler Jones' second effort is also pretty elite, if you ask me. He's not a guy that gets blocked initially and then I'm not going to say gives up on the play, but isn't able to find his way back into the play. Here's the opposite of the stunt that I just showed you. An inside linebacker is going to pick the offensive tackle. And so when he does that, what it's doing is it's hopefully creating a lane for Chandler Jones to beat this offensive guard through the A gap. Typically, when you get this, you have an edge rush from the other side. If everything's coordinated well, which NFL teams are, I'm not saying this one's not, but typically when you get stuff like this, you're going to get a speed rush from the other side to force this quarterback to step up. So that what happens is when you get this pick, it's a different guy, sorry. You get this pick on the offensive tackle, and you've essentially created a wall here for Chandler Jones to run underneath. So what the idea, and hopefully I'm explaining it well, I have a feeling I'm not, is for the speed rush to force the quarterback to step up. And then this movement here, this pick, whatever you want to call it, to allow Chandler Jones to go underneath, or from someone from the other side. Doesn't have to be Chandler Jones, obviously. In this case, Chandler Jones executes it extremely well. Watch the hand fight on the way there. 1, 2. I just feel like he could teach people how to use their hands while continuing to move. To me, he looks like an incredible football player still. I mean, maybe I have rose-colored glasses on here. Ravens fans have been dying for elite edge rush play. We signed Justin Houston last year. I think he played well. I think Justin Houston did some good things. In my opinion, and I said this many times in videos, I would have rather seen those snaps go to Owe. But I guess at the beginning of the year, you didn't know that Tyus Bowser was going to play at such a high level against the run, the pass, and in pass coverage. To me, if you're looking for someone who can come in and do all the things Tyus Bowser can do, you don't sign Chandler Jones. If you're looking for someone who can come in and get you 10 or 12 sacks, if you let him be who he is, I think Chandler Jones is your guy. And I know there's going to be some other people who say, why don't we draft an edge rusher? Well, yeah, that's an option too. I think Chandler Jones is a guy that you can plug in, and he can have a huge impact. In some ways, he reminds me of Suggs, size-wise. Suggs may be a little bit more physical. Chandler Jones, I think, has the right blend or mix of being physical. You saw the forklift move against the left tackle, or I call it a forklift. Other people call it a different technique, against the backup left tackle for the Titans. I haven't seen a ton of bull rushes out of him. I feel like he is a virtuoso pass rusher that could probably do this stuff until he's 35 years old at a high level. Let me know what you guys think of the video, what you think of my breakdown of my thoughts on Chandler Jones, and what you might think of the Ravens looking at signing him. Of course, salary cap, limitations exist. Chandler Jones has already gone on record and said that money is not his main focus. It's winning a Super Bowl and letting the scheme allow Chandler Jones to be Chandler Jones.